the SRI Racing Network. Alright, so I'm going to welcome you back. Apparently having some slight technical issues here on the network, but we are back with you. Year 4, as I should do my rundown again. Welcome to the SRI Season 1 Grand Prix of Long Beach, Round 3 of the SRI Season 1 IndyCar Series. We gave an apparently dead rundown of our points table during qualifying. We'll try to get back to that. Just 2 rounds in the books of the 10-race championship, so we've got quite a ways to go before the end here. We'll talk about those points leaders. You've got basically the top 10 covered by a total of 14 points after the first 2 races, with Pogo Mojo in the Boy Scouts car. A very narrow lead over last week's Sonoma winner Mick Toasty in the NTT Data Chevrolet. OGR Cat Guy in the Verizon Chevrolet, very close third. Yours truly, Carlin Hicks, is in 4th up here in the booth this week. So Jiggly Jello in 5th in the Ed Carpenter Chevrolet. That covers your top 5, but all these guys, as I said, very much in it here early in the season. Right now, Ty Joe's sitting in the pits on the pole time. It looks like McToasty coming out. We'll see if Jiggly Jello has something for him. He's coming into some traffic. But the Indy cars, of course, with the extra turbo boost and the alternate tires, I don't know if, certainly no car running in SRI has more of a difference between qualifying trim and race trim. Absolutely no doubt. We saw that last week. Those of you who was not on the network here but raced at Sonoma would have seen it in last week's race. Big difference between the cars that were set up well for qualifying and set up well for the race. And so that's going to be very telling here. It looks like Ty Joe might get his 2nd consecutive pole here in the IndyCar series, and with Ty Joe, it's about keeping it together. Just 8th in the points after the first 2 rounds, and he'll definitely want to get it moved up. That's Ty Joe there in the 26 car. Points leader Pogo, he was the winner at Daytona in the season opener. Tamed the super speedway, he brings it home. Not going to have a particularly big qualifying thing, but we're about to give you the starting lineup for the SRI Season 1 Grand Prix of Long Beach. Alright, starting on the pole will be Ty Joe in the 26 Honda. McToasty, last week's winner at Sonoma, will start in 2nd in the NTT Data Chevrolet. Jiggly Jello will start in 3rd in the Ed Carpenter Chevrolet. HHVC from Australia in the 98 Napa Auto Parts car will start 4th. Super Crusher will start 5th in the DHL Honda. Cat Guy will start 6th in the Verizon Chevrolet. CMCF will get his blue Chevrolet starting in 7th. Pogo Mojo, the point leader, will start in 8th place. Mark Webber will start in 9th. Revs Martin in the Snapple car will start 10th. Pot the Brown will be starting in 11th. Global Jackson in the PureTech car starting in 12th. And Cracked Piston will round out the field starting in 13th. Alright, so 13 starters here at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. You expect to see a little bit of carnage being these narrow streets, but most of the damage at Sonoma last week in the first road race was self-inflicted by drivers. There wasn't a ton of contact that was initiated between guys. Let me get myself retired and spectated here. And on to the monitor. Get our map up. We'll remind you guys the arrow is the car we're watching. White dots are cars on the same lap Blue Dot's cars a lap down. And here it is, 61 laps on the board. The first lap, however, they will be doing a rolling start, as they will be making a parade lap and lining up for a single file start here in the IndyCar series on the road courses. As I said, first 2 rounds, the winner's Pogo Mojo getting the US 300 trophy on the Super Speedway. McToasty picking up the win last week in the Sonoma Indy 200. Those are the first 2 races in SRI IndyCar Series history, and this is the first broadcast of the IndyCar Series on the SRI Racing Network, so we're glad to have you with us. Let me know in the comments if the audio is good, anything like that. If you have any questions for our viewers, feel free to shoot them to me. I think, interestingly enough, in the first 2 rounds we had 2 completely different sets of podium finishers. Nobody has 2 podiums in the first 2 races. Your podium was Pogo, with Pogo, Jiggly Jello, and Ed Yeager at Daytona, McToasty, Mark Webber, and myself, Carlin Hicks, at Sonoma. So no one, that's part of the reason why the points table is as tight as it is after the first 2 rounds. It's also the way the points are set up. It's top heavy to the top 5, 20, 17, 15, 12, 10. And then there's a drop off down to 5 points for 6th, 4, 3, 2, 1 down to 10th. So you definitely want to get the podiums in the top 5s. But it also means you can catch up in a hurry. So even guys who did not make the first 2 rounds are only 21 points back here coming into this race. Alright, so as I said, they will be making a pace lap. We'll be going green off a single file start the next time by. You got the typical Honda Chevy battle. Taijo and McToasty up front. Those are the guys I'm looking for. If Taijo can keep the car together, he is lightning quick. 2nd straight week on the pole, but he's got to put it together for the entire 60 laps of the run. McToasty, you know, the American driver in the number 10 car, ran terrific last week at Sonoma in picking up the win. The only car that really didn't have any problems on that tough track. And Jiggly Jello right there, 3rd place qualifying run. He was 2nd at Daytona, so he's right there in the championship, 5th in the points. Back in the field, some guys I'm looking to see, of course, Super Crusher in 5th. He's definitely going to be someone to watch. CMC's got to had a good ride going at Sonoma before he had his problems. Coming up from 8th, Pogo Mojo, the point leader. Mark Webber, he's quick, another one of our Australian drivers. Pot the Brown from over in the UK, he's going to be quick in the number 6 preferred car. And Global Jackson and Cracked Piston are bringing up our field, so we'll be looking to see what they can do. When they get it set on Taijo, but then be ready to go to the chase cam. As they're coming around, you can see them on the map about to go through turn 11 hairpin. And then it'll be down the front stretch to the start of the race, the SRI Season 1 Grand Prix of Long Beach. Glad to have you with us here, as Taijo from the Philippines is going to bring us down for the inaugural Grand Prix of Long Beach here in the SRI. We're glad to have you with us. It's going to be a show of speed. Here we go. And we are green. Let's see those push to pass buttons probably lighting up here, as Taijo gets a good jump right there. McToasty pulling out, looking to make a move. Jiggly Jello's there, doesn't look like. And somebody's around. That's the number 2 car, and that is Cat Guy, who went around. Don't know if anybody hit him. He gets it up and going, but falls all the way back to 12th. Let's get on that chase cam here and see where the action separates a little. There's Super Crusher in 5th. That's Jiggly and HHVC. Too much going on to follow. They're battling there for 3rd place. Taijo managing to get out in front of McToasty, and they are nose to tail here in the early going. The big question, you can ignore that graphic, it'll show red sidewalls, but these guys probably using primary tires or amalgamation of them, and that was Ty Joe's problem last week at Sonoma. He was lightning quick early, and then it faded over the run. So we'll see if he can keep it together. HHVC and Jiggly still battling. Super Crusher's got Pogo, who shot up from 8th place right behind him. You've got Revs. Cracked Piston has moved all the way up to 8th place as he gets by Cat Guy, and it looks like Mark Webber is going to hit the pits as well as CMC and Global Jackson. So I'm guessing those three got into it. I don't know if Cat Guy lost it or got hit from behind, but he went around in turn 1, and those three guys, and that's some serious damage on Global Jackson's number 61 PureTech Chevrolet. He's going to have a bit of a repair time, so those three guys going to have to try to pull it back together. As meanwhile, there's your battle for 5th place. Super Crusher in the DHL car making his first start of the season, and he's squaring off with the points leader as it's a pair of Hondas going at it right now. Let's get on board there with Pogo Mojo right there off of turn 11. Has not used any of his push to pass yet. As he sees a car coming out of the pit lane there, he's got to be mindful. And he's staying right on top of it. Ty Joe still holding the lead from McToasty. HHVC's moved up into 3rd on Jiggly Jello, but he's still got Jello right on his tail as they're battling right there. A little bit of a gap back to Super Crusher and Pogo. Revs Martin, Super Crusher's teammate, running in 7th. Cat Guy is back up to 8th after his bad slide in turn 1. Cracked Piston in 9th. Pop the Browns had some problems and fallen back to 10th. I don't remember him being in the pit lane. And then you've got the 3 cars that made an early pit stop, but it is far from over here at this point. So much action to follow. And it looks like CMC has chosen to excuse me, to retire the car. Must have picked up some pretty bad damage there in that first lap incident. So the number 11th place driver in points is not going to add to that here today, as he is out of the car early here on lap 5. So we're down to 12 still on the track of the 13 starters. Got a little bit of a breathing room on HHVC now. But where there is no breathing room is right here up front. Let's go ahead and get on board the number 10 NTT Data Chevrolet here of McToasty. And working just lap 5. It's 60 laps, 200K, so there's a long way to go. Leave the speedo on, but as you can see by the fuel load, there's differing strategies here in this race. It looks to me like some guys are going to make pit stops at different times, and that's really your prerogative here in a race like this. You're going to have to make 2 stops somewhere over the 60, and McToasty just being patient here, waiting for his chance. And it looks like we have our second retiree. Looks like Global Jackson is done. So here in the first few laps, Long Beach claiming a couple of victims out of 13 starters. We're now down to 11 as 2 cars caught up on that opening lap are going to have some problems getting themselves back up and moving. Meanwhile, checking in, Jiggly Jello back in 3rd. We lost another car. I think that was Pot the Brown, who has also retired. So just 7 laps, is working on 7 laps here in the Grand Prix of Long Beach, and we have 3 retirees for damage already. So from 13 starters, we're now down to 10 cars on the track. Given the rundown from Taijo leading barely over McToasty. Jiggly's in 3rd. HHVC a little bit behind him in 4th. Pogo Mojo has moved up to 5th. Super Crusher running in 6th. Cat Guy running 19 seconds back in 7th. Revs Martin is in 8th. Cracked Piston from the back of the field with those retirees has moved up to 9th, and Mark Webber a lap off the lead. He made a pit for stop for damage, and he's in 10th, and he looks like he's driving around without a wing again. So I think we're going to see Mark Webber back in the pit lane for the second time. He came in 6th in the points, just 4 points off the leader Pogo Mojo, so he's definitely going to want to repair that and get back out. Just finishing here today with 10 cars left, you need the points, and I think we'll likely see him in the pit lane once again. Back up front, it's been Taijo from the pole. He's led all 7 laps now, working lap 8. He and McToasty with a little bit of a gap. Mark Webber is on the pit lane and obviously going to fall a little farther behind, needing more repairs here. Long Beach can be fickle. And it looks like McToasty scraped the wall a little bit on that one. Don't know if it banged the car up, but he definitely caught the wall coming out of the corner there onto the back section. Turn 8, heading into the 9, 10, 11 complex. He's staying right there with him, just a second back. And we're waiting to see what the differing strategies will be for these drivers, because you know there are going to be some differing strategies. And with 3 cars retiring, you've seen a little bit of the traffic clear up, and it might make going off sequence a little more attractive. And Jiggly Jello, he's staying right there in it himself. Just 2.7 seconds off the lead, about a second and a half off of McToasty, so those 3 staying right in it, while Pogo has now moved up to 4th. It looks like HHVC has fallen back. He was running as high as 3rd, and he's now about 11 seconds back. So we'll see how that sorts itself out. Once again, watching McToasty trying to reel in Taijo, but he might be quick enough to make a move. But right here, you got to get it done there in 11. It's very difficult. You got to get on the power and probably use up one of your push to passes, which you get 10 of for the whole race, to make that move. And you might be thinking, maybe I can pass them on the sequence of pit stops. You don't necessarily, maybe your pit crew can do it. You don't have to do it on the track. But while these two have been fighting, Jiggly Jello shook off the challenge of HHVC and has settled in nicely into 3rd place. You can see him right there in the background. There's Jiggly right there in the number 20 Ed Carpenter Chevrolet. Just 2.5 seconds off the lead. He's hanging in there, and there's a little bit of a gap to Pogo, who, you know, some of them were retirees, but Pogo started 8th. He's survived those early struggles, or the early problems of those guys, came through it clean, and is now running in 4th place for the points leader coming in here. And he's got HHVC pretty close on his tail, the 5th place car. So we're only on lap 11 of 61 on the board here at Long Beach. .968 miles is the official measurement here of the street circuit at Long Beach, just under 2 miles, about 3K, so it's about 187 or so kilometers we're running, or about 120 miles that these guys are going to have to do here. Take a look at some of our guys working their way back up in the DHL Honda Super Crusher. The Australian driver making his SRI IndyCar Series debut. He ran it before in other sanctioning bodies. But this is a guy, did not make the first 2 races, but we expect if he puts together a full-time run, even from this point in the season, there's still plenty of time to get in this championship. Right now, qualified in the middle, he's running in 6th place right now, and is about 19 seconds off. He's still within range to make something happen, however, particularly trying to get, as I said, in that top 5. That top 5 in points is where the big payouts are at, and so that position right ahead of him is one he has to covet, especially trying to make up ground if he is in fact going to make a full-time run. But if he does, I think he'll definitely be a contender. And we've got our first, what might be a scheduled pit stop here in the early going. As we said, these guys are going to make multiple stops today. Cracked piston, the Australian driver pulling it in from 9th place. He started, if not dead last, and next to shotgun on the field, and has kept it together, and he makes his pit stop, gets his service done, and is out and rolling. And as I said, Super Crusher here trying to get it back in, wants to reel in that top 5, and it looks like Jiggly Jello has fallen back. He must have had a problem. I don't see any damage on the number 20 car, all the wings together, but he might have had a spin as he's fallen from 3rd back to 5th. That's going to move Pogo Mojo up into 3rd, HHVC into 4th, and Jiggly's now right behind them in 5th. So I'm going to guess he had a solo spin somewhere and managed to avoid hitting the walls, or at least hitting the walls hard enough to do anything. It looks like the car is okay, but that's going to put 3rd, 4th, and 5th together, shake them up, and Pogo Mojo from that 8th place starting spot in the 13 starters has moved all the way up into the top 3 at the front of this line. Meanwhile, up front, it looks like McToastie's hitting the pit lane, and it looks like it's possibly a scheduled pit stop, deciding to go in off sequence. And McToastie in the number 10 Chevrolet hits the pit lane from 2nd place. He's the first of the front runners, and this is not a stop for fuel. He's deciding to go off sequence here. You can go much further than this on the fuel, so he decided to come in and go off sequence with the other leaders. Obviously going to be putting on a fresh set of rubber here. Pit stop coming on lap 14 of 61. So still early, and he's getting quick service, fuel going in, even if you can't see it. Looks like a clean stop, and he is off. So Taijo now has some breathing room for the time being, with McToastie having made his pit stop, and that's going to cycle Pogo into 2nd, HHVC into 3rd, and Jiggly Jello into 4th. Let's get on board the cockpit of Jiggly Jello's car, now running in 4th. He was all the way up to 3rd. Fell back to 5th, which what I got to assume was a spin or something happened to him. Maybe it was as simple as getting a timing penalty and having to ease off and lose some time there. But he's got 3rd and 4th right in front of him as McToastie has decided to go off sequence, and we'll see how that works out when Taijo makes his pit stop. He was about 2 seconds behind Taijo when he came in. Right all the way down the front stretch. Get as far to the right as you can if there's no one coming out of pit lane. It's all a rhythm through here as you go around the famous fountain. Turns 2, 3, 4. Turn 5 here back to the left. This one wants to push you into that wall, especially if the tires are worn. Turn 6, same deal. You do not. That is a big trouble spot, and you can easily damage your suspension going into those tires. Turn 7 here. You want to try to go as close to the inside as you can, but as you can see by Jiggly, he's not going to risk it. Turn 8 here, another one. Everything here on this track, the track gets dirty over the course of the race. It's just going to become more and more difficult as we're about a quarter of the way through now. Now here comes the 9, 10, 11 complex as he's got a move there on HHVC, but couldn't put it anywhere. 9 and then 10 and then into the 11 hairpin. And if you want to make that move, you might have to use your push to pass right there. You get 10 of them per race. That gives you I believe a 50 horsepower boost for 10 seconds. When we get a little farther on, I'll give a check on that as to what each driver still has, and it looks like HHVC having problems there, and he does. He gets the wall in turn 1. Don't know if he seriously damaged the car. Doesn't look like any pieces are missing, but he had to slam on the brakes to avoid doing that, and he loses 3rd place to Jiggly Jello. So Jiggly moves back into 3rd place. HHVC falls to 4th. And Super Crusher is going to be looking to try to reel them in. There's your battle for 3rd. Jiggly Jello in the green number 20 car. HHVC in the Napa Auto Parts Honda. That's Chevy versus Honda. North America versus Australia right there. You can see a little bit tight coming off of the turn 11 hairpin for HHVC, and I gotta believe he might not be handling at 100%, at least if not damaged. Maybe his tires are starting to feel it. Do a quick rundown here on what guys have used push to pass so far. Taijo's used 1. Pogo hasn't touched it. Jiggly Jello hasn't touched it. HHVC still has 10. Super Crusher hasn't touched it. Cat Guy's used 3 so far. Revs Martin hasn't used it. McToasty's used 1. Cracked Piston hasn't touched it. And Mark Webber hasn't touched it. So these guys are saving it, obviously. That's Taijo going around some lap traffic right there. We saw 105s in qualifying, but you take a look at the difference here. Best race lap so far is a 107.8 by Taijo, so more than 2 seconds off the qualifying pace. As I said, the different turbo settings and the tires make a huge difference here in this race. And it looks like Cat Guy is moving up on Super Crusher. He's got the lapped car of Cracked Piston in between him, the 2 Verizon Chevrolet, the corporate teammates there. Cat Guy's got that thing back up to 6th after he spun in turn 1. I'm not sure if he got hit or what happened there, but it definitely triggered an incident that damaged the 3 cars that have retired from the race. But that's turn 1 at Long Beach. That kind of stuff happens, and right now Cat Guy's got to work his way around Cracked Piston, and I would say he needs to use a push to pass to do it. And it looks like they're trying to communicate that and almost got crossed up. But there you go, Cracked Piston lets him by on the blue flag, and Cat Guy will... Ooh! And he goes way too hard there into turn 7. But he manages to get on the brakes. I don't think he damaged anything. He's going to lose some time, about 6-7 seconds to 5th place Super Crusher in front of him. But he manages to keep the car under him, so good drive in there. So instead of challenging Super Crusher, he's now may see the challenge of his teammate Revs Martin in the Snapple Honda number 27. Revs making his debut in the SRI IndyCar Series this week as well. Last lap was in the 110s. He may be a little... Let's see where he's at in terms of the pace here. Best laps in the 109s. That's not bad. Close to the front runners. And he avoided early trouble, so there's still a lot of time to go here. Still could very well have a top 5 race car. McToasty, meanwhile, made the early pit stop from 2nd. He's back in 8th. As we said, he was 2 seconds behind Taijo at the time of the pit stop. So we're going to see scheduled pit stops coming up as McToasty, the one front runner who went out of sequence, and we'll see how that works out for him as we get moving up on it here. Alright, meanwhile, Taijo Since Matosty pitted, he's now got about 17-18 seconds on Pogo Mojo, who thus far with the drive of the race moving up from 8th to 2nd here in the early goings, as we are working lap 20 of 61 on the board here in Grand Prix of Long Beach, one of the 2 crown jewel events in the IndyCar series. The next one is, of course, next weekend at the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we will be hosting the inaugural SRI Indianapolis 500. That will also be broadcast right here on the SRI Racing Network, and we hope to have you join us there, if not as a competitor, then as a viewer. So Taijo running long, still running in the 108, so he's still putting time on that group behind him in the 109s, and we questioned how quick he would be over the long runs, and right now he's pretty quick, and it looks like Pogo Mojo hits the pit lane in the number 19 Boy Scout Honda, to be followed by HHVC. These two coming in on lap 21, or pitting on lap 20 for them. So they look like they're just going to cut it into thirds, probably make it 20 and 20. Obviously, McToasty decided to get out early and try to make something happen here, but these guys following the conservative schedule. And Pogo started in 8th. The US 300 champion started in 8th and has moved up. His moving up really didn't have how much to do with that first lap incident. He passed a lot of cars on the track and moved all the way up to 2nd, so we'll see where he comes out. HHVC's up and rolling now out of 7th, and I believe he's going to beat Pogo out of the pits there. In fact, he does. So a fantastic pit stop by HHVC's pit crew. He came into the pit lane after Pogo Mojo, but his team got him out ahead of Pogo from 2nd. So somewhat of a poor pit stop for Pogo Mojo first time by, and he loses at least that position on the track. Up front, meanwhile, we're watching Taijo waiting to see when he's going to come in, as he's working lap 22. Oh. Getting kicked in the head by the kid here. Alright, so Taijo completes 22, and he's lapping faster on that lighter fuel load. So he may just, I get the feeling he's definitely building the gap, because McToasty coming out on a longer run tire, obviously, and probably full tanks. You get the feeling Taijo is just trying to put up hot laps right now, and I get the feeling that when he pits, if he gets a clean pit stop, he may have extended his gap. 10 of the 13 starters still running, as we are a little past 1/3 distance here at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. Taijo's been your leader from the pole. Waiting on when he might come in. Jiggly Jello back in 2nd now, waiting to see his stop. He's about 24 seconds back from Taijo's Super Crusher. Look on the arrows over there, you can see relative to the track where they're at. Super Crusher in 3rd, Cat Guy not far behind in 4th, and Revs Martin holding in 5th. And here comes McToasty up to 6th after those rounds of pit stop, and he's coming up on Revs Martin. Doesn't need to pass him though, really just needs to wait for him to make his stop and try to cycle through. So we're going to wait here on Taijo. Let's get into the cockpit of that number 26 Honda. Lightning quick pole sitter last week at Sonoma, but trouble with the car in that race. As I said, took the pole at Sonoma last week and the fastest lap, but could do no better than an 8th place finish, owing to the damage that he took. But he's trying to keep that thing together, and you know he's coming close to the pit stop. He has stayed out, one of those that has stayed out likely a full fuel load or close to it. And we'll see if he's coming in now. Nope, Taijo's keeping it going. He's going to hit lap 25. You're definitely going to have to make 2 stops for fuel here. But Taijo just trying to run. Obviously, he's found speed on the lighter fuel load here. But you might... Ooh, somebody lost a winglet right there. And that, I believe, was cracked piston. Let's get a look at his car. As soon as our camera crew focuses, yeah, he definitely lost a wing coming out of turn 1 and into the fountain section. So it's been a hard luck race for the Aussie driver in the number 12 Verizon. He's already a few laps down. He's going to have to come in again and get a new wing. But he's grinding it out, trying to pick up a points finish. Back on Taijo. Is that McToasty? He just went by. Yes, it was. On a very light fuel load, Taijo putting a lap for the moment on McToasty, but he's staying out again. He's going to make it to 26. Might have a few more laps in that thing, but you're definitely... I don't think you can make this race on 1 stop. Not at all. You'd have to do some kind of crazy fuel stretching to make it work, but you might have just a splash and go at the end, which may be what he's aiming for. Some noise in the fans here at Long Beach, not happy with the price of beer and ice cream. And we just lost cracked pistons. Looks like we have our 4th retiree. Extensive damage for him, and he's decided to retire it on lap 26. And so we are down to 9 cars remaining out of the 13 starters here in the Grand Prix of Long Beach. A little bit short of halfway. We're coming up on halfway. And not surprising to see Long Beach claiming some people. This can be an absolute race of attrition. Right now it is, with 4 of the 13 starters already out. We're working lap 27 of 61. Super Crusher up to 3rd on the cycle of pit stops, and it looks like Jiggly has finally hit the pit lanes in the number 20. He's looking to make a pit stop in his Chevrolet from 2nd place. We'll see how that all sorts out coming in on lap 26. Looks like Mark is back in the pit lane, and Cat Guy coming down the lane from 4th place in the Verizon Chevy. We'll see how he sorts out. And Taijo coming in finally behind him, so the leader hitting the pit lane. Let's take a look at where he is. Let's take a look at where McToasty is. Just passing him on the track there, so you got to believe that Taijo made some serious time running on that light fuel load. Let's see how the gap sorts out when they come out. Cat Guy's rolling, Jiggly Jello's rolling, but they've got the leader who's not going to be that far behind them. And he is going to come out of here with what looks like it will be... I think he's definitely extended his lead. Super Crusher just coming down the front stretch now. And let's see, he might have jumped him. And he does. Super Crusher on the cycle of pit stops is going to jump to the lead. So obviously a better pit stop for the number 28 DHL team as he comes out of the cycle of pit stops. But he might not have pit yet. I could be totally wrong. I don't believe he has. Let me go ahead. I'm not going to tell me here. No, it's not. He may not have pit yet. Either way, Taijo makes his way out. And Taijo comes out. He's now 8 seconds ahead of McToasty. So he gains 6 seconds on the exchange of pit stops there with McToasty. So McToasty did not get, at least for the time being, the result he wanted by going off sequence. But we've still got a ways to go. Now he's on warm tires. He's going to have a lighter fuel tank than Taijo. This could be his time to try to make up some gap and get back in it. But for the moment, waiting for their cycle of pit stops, Super Crusher has taken the lead. He needs to pit here pretty soon. Looks like he's going to try at least one more. Taijo's made his stop in second. Revs Martin is in third. McToasty fourth, and HHVC has come up in fifth. Still got 9 cars of the 13 starters. 8 are on the lead lap at the moment. As we are working lap 29 of 61, just short of halfway here. Wait to see when Super Crusher makes his pit stop as he cycled to the lead. As we said, his first start of the season, but this is a guy who can definitely win in these cars, and we look forward to seeing him competing. But right now he's got to make a quick pit stop and try to get out as quickly as possible. And we'll see how those differing pit cycles and strategies have played out for these guys at this point. And he's going to give it one more at least. You gotta wonder if maybe he decided to go with a fuel stretching situation, because he's now out to lap 30 of a 61 lap race. I don't know if he can make 31 laps, but maybe he decided it's possible that they turn down the wick. He's running 110s, and his fastest lap here 109.4. I would expect him to be quicker than that. It's quite possible that the Andretti team there decided to run with the fuel wick turned down and try to see if they could make the race on one stop. That's always a possibility. But I think he's going to have to make a pit stop here. But if he makes it one more lap, then you'll know that he can do it. As his teammate Revs Martin hit the pit lane right there. But I gotta believe he's coming in. And no, he's going to try it. Alright, this is going to be interesting. He's actually given that lead back up to Taijo. But it looks like Super Crusher ran a 113 that last time. He's obviously nursing the fuel as he went very slow there. The tires are bad at this point, but not that bad. He's definitely nursing the fuel. And if he mistimes this, he's going to run out here. Jiggly Jello pitting from 6th place. Let's see real quick if he's got some kind of... Yeah, he's got some damage, and unfortunately for Jiggly, who was as high as 2nd place in this race, he's going to have to put a new front wing on that thing in the number 20 car. Tough luck for Jiggly Jello for the 2nd straight week after a 2nd place finish at Daytona. So Super Crusher's done enough here to dial the fuel down and likely make it on one stop, but I don't know if the timing is going to be right. He is just about out as he hits the pit lane, but he made it 31 laps on a tank of fuel, so maybe he can go here on one pit stop. It's quite possible that that was the game plan here, that he could dial back the fuel load and make that effort, but I don't know if there's enough speed. I myself have made that same strategy call before in races, and it all depends on if there's enough speed in the car even when you're dialed back. 1 or 2 seconds off the race pace, might do it. 3 or 4 seconds, absolutely will not. But he's getting full service, going to be filling the tank here, and as the pit stop cycle and we go past the halfway point, so we're getting the crossed flags here at Long Beach. We've got Taijo in the lead. He's got 17 seconds on HHVC, who's followed pretty closely there by McToasty, and McToasty's got Pogo Mojo right on him, with Cat Guy about 25 seconds back after his early problems in 5th. So let's get back on board here with the world's greatest drone pilot in our chase cam as Pogo tries to put the move on McToasty, and does. So move Pogo Mojo into 3rd place. McToasty, that early pit stop just really didn't work out but as he wanted, but as I said, it's for the moment. Maybe later on in the race that's an entirely different scenario, but for right now he's falling back. He's about 20 seconds off of Taijo, and as you see Pogo right there moving pretty quick and moving forward, but Taijo's in a world of his own right now, running in the 108s. He's coming up on lap traffic again. This time it's Revs Martin about to put the 6th place car a lap down, but Taijo running pretty much on his own planet and looking to get not only his first win in the SRI IndyCar Series, but it would be a big win, crown jewel win, to win at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. And he has had the speed. He's led the whole way except for the cycle of pit stops, so we'll see what he can try to get done here. Oh, and Cat Guy, we've got a blown motor. We've got a blown motor, unfortunately. Cat Guy, 3rd place in the points. Try to get him in the booth, but it looks like it looks like we've got a blown motor just past halfway for the driver 3rd place in the points, and that's OGR Cat Guy. So out of our 13 starters, we are now down to just 8 still running on the track as we work lap 35 of 61. We lost 3 cars due to an early crash. 1 retiree a few laps after that may have been related, and now our first blown motor of the race belongs to the 3rd place car in points, OGR Cat Guy. So that is going to be a tough break for him, as he was running up in 5th place at the time, and definitely looking to get those points after a tough Sonoma last week. So Taijo working with about 16 seconds on HHVC, who's now moved all the way up into 2nd, and he had a fantastic pit stop. You saw him jump Pogo Mojo on the cycle of pit stops. That put him up into, or at least ahead of Pogo in the queue, but he did not pass Pogo and McToasty on the track. I believe he passed him in the pit lane. So that has worked out wonderfully for him. That pit crew on the 98 Napa Auto Parts Honda needs to take a bow, as he has used that, and now he's running quick, a 109 or 108.2 last time. Not quick enough to catch Taijo, but it's quick enough to settle him in for what could be his first podium finish in the IndyCar Series. He's got about 3.5-4 seconds on Pogo right behind him, who started in 8th in the 13 car field and has steadily moved up. Did not get the pit stop he wanted, but he's hanging on there. McToasty, meanwhile, I don't see any damage on that car, but he might have some in the suspension you can't see. But he has definitely fallen off. 111 last time is slower than his prior laps early in the race, obviously. And as we said, when he hit the pit lane on lap 14, he was 2 seconds behind Taijo, and now, as you can see now, back 31 seconds back, and he's just fighting to try to get up onto that podium. Toasty came in second in the points, just one behind Pogo, so he's basically racing Pogo head-to-head here for third place in what would be a 6-point swing right there. And Revs Martin keeping it together in that Snapple car. Came from 9th, I believe, on the grid. I could be wrong, but it was back there somewhere, and has driven this thing up into 5th place with the attrition and just a solid race strategy. He pitted on lap 30 as well, so he might be doing the same thing Super Crusher's doing and trying to stretch this thing. Super Crusher's 7 seconds behind him on the track. You can see him coming through the 9, 10, 11 complex there. Jiggly Jello, after making his pit stop, looking to make up time. He's in 7th, and Mark Webber, the last car running on the track, he's, I believe, 2 laps down in 8th place. He's made a couple stops for damage, but we got to give him credit. We had 3 cars retire with damage, so we got to give Mark credit. He's driving that thing to try to pick up the points as he hits some debris right there in turn 11, and that looks like that's Jiggly Jello again, and it is. It looks like Jello has lost his wing again, and he's going to be hitting the pit lane again. So what was a promising race for Jiggly Jello has gone wrong here, and he's just going to try to limp this thing home and get whatever championship points he can heading into the Indy 500 next week. So tough break there for him. We'll see if that gives Mark a shot to race 4 position. But we've got the cars a bit spread out now, working lap 38 of 61, so it's by no means finished. McToasty still Taijo still lapping faster than anyone on the track and controlling this race, but as you know, Long Beach can reach up and bite at any time. We'll talk a little about the SRI IndyCar series as we'll take a look at the schedule for the remainder of the season. Next week, of course, is the greatest spectacle in racing. It will be the Indianapolis 500 here on SRI Racing Network. These cars then in week 5 following the bye week. In week 5 will be to Texas Motor Speedway for the A.J. Foyt Trophy race. They'll then head to Road America for round 6 and the Road America Grand Prix. Round 7 takes them back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Oval for the Grand Prix of Indianapolis. And then following the bye week, round 8, the Watkins Glen Indy Grand Prix at the Watkins Glen International Circuit. They will then head to Laguna Seca Raceway for the Andretti Grand Prix in round 9. And will close out the season in week 10 for the Texas 500 at the Texas Motor Speedway. So a fantastic schedule. The IndyCar is, of course, the most diverse mix of racing circuits in the world. There's 5 ovals, 5 road courses. They've got street circuits, natural terrain road courses, just anything you could possibly imagine. You better be good at all of it if you want to claim the SRI IndyCar Championship. And right now, Taijo, as we said, coming in, had been fast but hadn't gotten really the finishes out of it in the first 2 races that he wanted. He ran 4th place at Daytona on the big oval, but just an 8th place finish last week after winning the pole at Sonoma. So this finish would definitely catapult him likely right back into the points lead or close to it. Heading into the Indianapolis 500, that is where you want to be, locked in and ready to go. And right now, because of the attrition here, he doesn't have as much backmarking traffic to deal with as he would. So he's just gunning it around, still anticipating one more scheduled pit stop. HHVC, meanwhile, back in 3rd right there in the Napa car, and he's got Pogo not far behind him. He's weaving all over the track a little bit. I'm not sure if there's something going on. You can see a little bit of might just be rubber buildup on that left front wing. It could be latency I'm seeing. It's possibly why the car looks a little herky-jerky, but we'll see. It looks like McToasty back in the pit lane for the second time. Scheduled pit stop there for him. 14 laps. The first one went 27 this time, so a much longer run, 26 maybe. And he's going to come in and try to pick up some time and try to get those extra points, move up onto the podium. That's going to cycle Revs and Super Crusher past him here momentarily, I believe. But meanwhile, Pogo Mojo in third. He's got the chase going on here on HHVC, and they're both coming into the pit lane at the same time. So let's see what happens this time. Last time HHVC jumped him in the pit lane. This time they both come in at the same time, and it's going to be pit crew versus pit crew, Honda versus Honda. And that's a big swing. HHVC farther down the pit lane. Brings it in. All right, Pogo's rolling. Let's see what he sees coming out of the pit lane. And HHVC just does get going ahead of him. So they're going to pretty much have the exact same pit stop time. And are going to be right back on it with 18 laps to go. There's going to be no holding back. They're going to give everything they got and likely turn up the wick here. As these two will battle at least for second. You got to mind the new fresh cold tires. They're not ice cold, but they're not track warm yet for at least that first lap. And Pogo's going to try to reel him in. Revs Martin now on the cycle of pit stop has moved up to fourth, a lap down, just ahead of Super Crusher. There's McToasty, who just made his pit stop, so he appears to be in better position to get back into the top five. But as you can see, he made his last stop, they made their last stop, and he's 17 seconds behind Pogo in third place. So it looks like McToasty may be running out of time to get back onto that podium, as he's battling with Super Crusher now, who we suspect might be trying to make it on one pit stop. I don't know that that strategy is going to work out the way they wanted, but it looks like he might be aiming to do that, and he's definitely giving McToasty fits right now. As Toasty just continues to lose time. Revs Martin deciding he's obviously not on a one-stop strategy. He hits the pit lane, doesn't look like he has damage, but he doesn't have any fuel on board. So obviously they went with a different strategy, maybe a light fuel load on a run to try to pick up some time, but Revs Martin's going to make his final pit stop on lap 44. And we got more action here up close, as McToasty now in fifth, fighting Super Crusher for fourth. I think he's clearly quicker, mainly because Super Crusher, I don't believe, has the thing turned all the way, has the fuel map all the way open. But he's going quick enough to keep McToasty behind him right now. As McToasty might even be on the push to pass, and it looks like Super Crusher shutting the door on him a little bit. He's making the effort at it, but not quite getting it done. No. All right. Meanwhile, Pogo and HHVC continue to battle for second. Those two have made their final pit stop, as Pogo gets around the lapped car of somebody. No, he hasn't got by the lapped car yet. He's trying to get by Revs, who is naturally, there he goes, finally lets him through, as Revs back in 6th off the cycle. But Pogo chasing HHVC now with the slightest gap between them. There you can see it on the track as we are down to 15 laps to go. It'll be 15 to go when Taijo hits the line at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. And these two are still very much battling for it. Pogo right behind him. That's a lap car, Revs Martin, who's trailing him in 6th place. While Super Crusher and McToasty continue to battle for 5th. We're going to go back and forth between those two battles as right now. Super Crusher in 4th, McToasty 5th, and they're going at it. Tooth and nail, as they say. It's beautiful weather at the track here in Long Beach, optimal track temperature. These guys can't complain about the condition of the track, although by now it's got a bit of a rubber buildup and also some the marbles and debris offline, I'm sure. But the conditions were nearly perfect here for the inaugural SRI Grand Prix of Long Beach. McToasty still looking to put that move on, but can't quite get it done. Said like to get you into the action here, just go to discord.com, search Sim Racing International. You can find us there. We got races all weekend all over the map as the various tours. Tomorrow the SRI Sports Car Championship at 4 p.m. Eastern. 9 p.m. UK time will be at Circuit of the Americas for the Lone Star Trophy race. That's the GTE cars of the SRI Sports Car Championship. And tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern from the Texas Motor Speedway, it'll be the Lone Star 250 in the SRI Grand National Championship. So that one, looking forward to that one, and some high stock car action on Sunday. Of course, we have the V8 Supercars Championship, which will be right here at Long Beach as well, and in fact will be under the lights. It'll be a night race, the Super Night of Long Beach, for the V8 Supercars, 8 p.m. Australian time on Sunday, and at 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, the SRI Touring Car Masters will be at Circuit of the Americas along with sports cars. So a full weekend of racing here at the SRI Championships all over the map. But right here we are down into the nitty-gritty. Less than 14 laps to go in the Grand Prix of Long Beach. You're watching the battle for second. We lost another car, as it appears. Mark Webber finally retiring his Chevrolet. He had damage problems and issues with that car from the very beginning. So we've got just 7 cars still on the track out of the 13 starters. We had 3 run into trouble right away off the opening lap. We had a 4th retiree shortly thereafter as McToasty finally gets by, or appeared to get by Super Crusher, but he's not giving up. They are racing at it. We had 3 out pretty soon. We had another one out about 5 or 6 laps in, as it looks like McToasty forcing the issue, and he's going to get it done. And it looks like HHVC has hit the pit lane for his last pit stop. He does. I'm not sure. I believe that's a scheduled stop. No, it is not. You can see the entire front wing is missing, and that looks like he might even have some suspension damage. So what was a terrific battle between him and Pogo for second might just go by the wayside, as HHVC is going to be making some extensive repairs here. So a disappointing. He had a great run going. Qualified well, was running up in the top 5 the whole race, had moved all the way up to second, but he is going to fall back significantly, at least here to 5th. Going to try to hold on to that top 5 and get those points but they are doing some extensive repairs to that car. So that's going to put Taijo all alone on the lead lap ahead of Pogo Mojo, who's a lap back in second. McToasty, about 20 seconds back, has moved up to third. Super Crusher is running in fourth, and Revs Martin is up to fifth. It looks like HHVC, where's he at here? He's on the pit lane. He might even be in danger here of losing sixth to Jiggly Jello, and that's the reason that you stay at it when you get damage to your car. Jiggly Jello had a good run. He got damaged, got the car fixed, got back out there, and he's about to pass HHVC and move into sixth. And he's about 20 seconds off here in the last 12 laps from the fifth place car. So he's, if not going to try to catch him on speed, he'll just hope to see who blinks here. And maybe he can still salvage a top 5 finish out of a race that did not look like it was going to be one he could be competitive in. Taking a look at McToasty as he finally got by Super Crusher. He's now pulling away from him, got back up into the top 3, even if he's a lap down at the moment. We expect to see Taijo probably make another pit stop, but we've seen Super Crusher stretch it, so we're waiting to see Taijo make another stop, but he's got plenty of cushion right now to do so. McToasty, meanwhile, have to feel pretty good. The strategy didn't go the way he wanted it to, but if he can salvage a podium finish here, you know, you see 7 cars on the board now, but there were 13 starters in this race, and it's no small feat to get on a podium in an SRI championship event, and it looks to me like he's in a position to do it. And we saw it last week at Sonoma. McToasty, just a smooth, cerebral driver, doesn't beat himself. And I definitely, I know he's trepidatious about racing on the oval, says he doesn't know what to expect at the Indianapolis 500, but I'm willing to bet when he gets out there during the week of practice with the veterans, he is going to be a definite contender to win really the greatest motor race in the world, the greatest spectacle in racing, certainly the inaugural SRI Indianapolis 500. Pogo Mojo, meanwhile, he came in as the points leader, and regardless of a Taijo win, if he finishes in second, he will leave here as the points leader. Pogo started in 8th place, so he didn't get the qualifying that he wanted out of the 13 starters, but just steadily avoided the first lap trouble and steadily started moving up. And despite losing some ground on a pit stop, he has stuck with it, and now running up in 2nd place. Pogo, as we said, got the win in the season opener at Daytona in the US 300, the inaugural IndyCar win, and then came back last week at Sonoma and managed just to grind it home in 10th place and pick up a single championship point, as he had more than his share of problems up there in Northern California. But back here in Southern California this week at Long Beach, he has done a fine job. He's kept the car off the walls. He's won the duels with the guys that have challenged him at this point, and right now he's comfortably in 2nd place and looking to pick up those points as we are inside of 9 laps to go here at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. You knew this was going to be a war of attrition. We anticipated of the 13 starters there'd be a number of guys that don't make it to the finish. That has been the case. We've had 6 DNFs out of the 13 starters, but 7 on the track looking to pick up championship points, and I think they've put on a good show, even though we've got separated here at the end. Long Beach is a unique race. It's the biggest street race in North America and probably second only to Monaco in the world. And right now, okay, Taijo hitting the pits for the final time on lap 53. He'll have 8 to go when he comes out. He should still have a comfortable gap. As you see, nobody's on the same lap with him because they're off sequence. And he's going to come out very much ahead. I believe he's going to come out with just 1 car still on the same lap as him. But as you said, you got to keep it off the walls for the full race distance, and that's what Taijo's got to be thinking. After what happened last week at Sonoma, it's just bring it home and pick up the win here for the Andretti Autosport team. Taijo, as we said, a driver from the Philippines. The most famous Filipino IndyCar driver, really the only one I can think of, was Jovi Marcello, who did a very good job in the feeder formula. Right there, you see Taijo catching the curb here at the fountain, but Jovi Marcello was very good in Indy Lights, was very good in a number of Formula feeder series. He was unfortunately lost his life in practice at the 1992 Indianapolis 500. But Taijo is certainly living up to the spirit of Jovi Marcello as he looks to get his first SRI IndyCar win here. And as I said, it would be a big race, the Grand Prix of Long Beach, and would put him right there in the hunt for the championship. But still very early. This is just round 3 of 10 in the series. Got a long way to go. But he's hanging on at the moment. And you can see scraping the wall there. He's maybe not handling 100% right now. But we'll see what he does when he gets back on. As Pogo's about 30 seconds behind. You've got McToasty, who's really just ahead of Taijo on the track at this point. Super Crusher back and forth has been steadily losing ground to McToasty. I don't think he's going to be able to challenge him, but nonetheless, got to give credit to Super Crusher. I think he's going to try to go the race distance here, and he's definitely dialed down the fuel. That's the only way you could do it, is by dialing down the fuel map, but I think he's going to do that. And it hasn't worked out to compete with the front runners. I don't think Super Crusher will say that the strategy worked how he wanted it to, but by being consistent, by keeping the car off the walls, he's looking right here to get at least a 4th place finish. And really, him and teammate Revs Martin both making their series debut tonight at Long Beach. If things hold form here over the last 6 laps, I mean, they're going to wind up with 4th and 5th place finishes and 4th and 5th place points, which will put them right into the championship. Likely will put them into locked-in positions going into the Indianapolis 500 next week. So, like I said, when you finish a race with 6-7 cars, remember there were 13 starters. You beat a number of guys that couldn't make it to the finish. So he's done a fine job here today, and 4th place is a good points day to get his season started. And there's the teammate and dad, Revs Martin, in the 27. He's running a lap off the lead, close to 2. Actually, I think he's 2 laps off the lead at this point. But as we said, has managed to keep it together, and looks like he could bring it home in the top 5. Well, Jiggly and HVC. Now Jiggly Jello back there, he's only 6 seconds back here with 6 laps to go from Revs Martin, and he's lapping about a second faster, so he might have a shot at him. And as I've said before, in the SRI scoring, that top 5 is the big drop-off. It's 20, 17, 15, 12, 10 through the top 5, and then it goes down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for 6 through 10, so that's a big 5-point swing. It's a 10-point swing, but driver to driver between 5th and 6th, so that is crucial to hang on to. And so Jiggly Jello just about 4 seconds behind Revs Martin now. He's going to be trying to catch him and get that crucial points position. Jiggly coming into today 5th in the points. After the first 2 rounds, he had a very solid 2nd place run at Daytona. So let's see what he's got. You see his arrow up there in the corner, and the white dot, that is Revs Martin. There's a lapped car between them, or a lapping car between them, but Jiggly's got a shot at moving up, so we'll keep an eye on that. We got to give him and HHVC props here. You see HHVC driving around. He's missing that left wing as he's made contact with the wall again, but he's just trying to drive it to the finish, I think. Trying to get whatever points he can out of it, and that's the way a champion does it. You need every little bit you can get, and he's trying to compete for that IndyCar championship, and so he is. Let's see if he decides to pit No, he's just going to stay out. I think he's hoping that somebody in front of him has some problems and he might be able to steal a spot, but props to HHVC for driving that thing around. He's got nobody really around him, so he's in decent shape right now. But the man of the hour, now working lap 58, has been Taijo. He won the pole. He's led the whole way except on cycling and pit stops. He's been the fastest driver. He's got the fastest race lap, I'm sure. 106.8 is indeed the fastest race lap. And he has been the man. Let's give some onboard time and see what Taijo's seeing. Right now, I believe he's just kind of cruising, trying to get to the finish as Revs Martin hits the pit lane. And that is, in fact, did he get some damage? Can't tell. It appears he has enough fuel, so it might just be damage, but Revs Martin's going to fall out of that top 5, and that is, in fact, going to bring Jiggly Jello back into the top 5. So, as I said, you keep grinding at it, and he's going to pick up some vital championship points as he moves past Revs Martin into the top 5. Revs looks like he must be getting repairs. He's taking fuel on board. I don't know that he needed to, but he might just be having repairs. But either way, that pit stop cost him a shot at a top 5. So Jiggly moves up into 5th for the moment. But as I said, it's been all Taijo today. Getting into his car, working lap 59 of 61. He's going to have 2 to go at the line. As I said, he took the pole last week at Sonoma, but had the wrong tire plan, and that, I believe, has got to be a slowdown penalty. That's exactly what it was. So Taijo taking what appears to be a slowdown penalty. Looks like he hopped the curb. Doesn't want to take a chance, as right there, Super Crusher, the 4th place car, is awfully close to him. But it's been that kind of day as he takes the line for lap 62 laps to go. And it's been a dominating performance for Taijo. Had the right strategy, stayed out long. He was lightning quick on old tires and a light fuel load, and that tells me he has a very balanced setup. He was able to fully take advantage of the light fuel load. That was the difference between his run and McToastie's run, and really was the key right here towards getting him up to the top of the board. This, as I said, would be his first SRI IndyCar Series victory. Of course, it's the 3rd race, and he will be on a hot streak, back-to-back poles and a victory coming into the Indianapolis 500 next Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UK on the SRI Racing Network. All right, the white flag is out from our flag man as Taijo takes the white flag. Got one more lap to go. Don't see any battles for position on the track, so we'll leave it with Taijo. And what can you say? He's taking that Honda. So Honda, it'll be the second Honda if you're interested in the manufacturer's battle. Chevy took the win in the opener at Daytona, or Honda took the win in the opener at Daytona. It was a Chevy win with McToastie last week, so this will put Honda up 2-1 in the manufacturer standings. In fact, Honda is 1, 2, and 4 today. But here comes Taijo down the back straightaway for the last time, heading towards the 9, 10, and 11 complex. Pulls it in there. And out of turn 11 for the final time, and it's Taijo in the number 26 Andretti Honda who takes the win. He is your SRI Season 1 Grand Prix of Long Beach champion. The first ever winner in what we hope will be a long history of this championship and this race, and just a brilliant performance by Taijo in bringing it home. Can't say enough about his drive here today. Took it from the pole, led every lap but on the first cycle of pit stops, and it was a brilliant performance. He put together a much more balanced car than he had last week at Sonoma and took that thing to the victory. Pogo Mojo is going to bring it home in second from an 8th place starting spot and he will remain the IndyCar Series points leader, his second podium of the season to go along with his Daytona win. So a fantastic run by Pojo. McTosty's bringing the NTT Data Chevrolet back down the front stretch. It'll be his second consecutive podium following last week's win at Sonoma. Super Crusher has finished it around in fourth. All right, here are your final standings for the SRI Season 1 Grand Prix of Long Beach. Your winner was Taijo. What a fantastic performance by him. Pogo Mojo is going to wind up second, and McToasty will join them on the podium for the second straight week. Super Crusher brings home that car in fourth place on his one-stop strategy. Jiggly Jello fights off the damage. He winds up a lap down in fifth. HHVC will take sixth place points, and Revs Martin brings it home in seventh. So we had 13 starters here tonight at the Grand Prix of Long Beach, 7 cars running at the finish, and it's Taijo, the Filipino driver, who takes the victory, his first in the IndyCar Series. Congratulations to him and to everybody. Remind you, tomorrow, as I said, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UK time, the SRI Sports Car Championship will be at Circuit of the Americas for the Lone Star Trophy race, and tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, the SRI Grand National Championship will come to you from Texas Motor Speedway and the Lone Star 250. Well, for the SRI Racing Network, this has been Carlin Hicks. Glad to have you with us here at Long Beach, and we will see you next time.